The story comes to us from the KentReporter.com. Out of Auburn, Washington. You guys are going to love this one. You're absolutely going to love it. An Auburn police internal investigation record shows Officer Kenneth Lyman was punished with a written reprimand. For what? He crashed his SWAT vehicle into Peter Manning's work truck and then fled the scene in 2020. That's right, May 15th of 2020, a couple weeks before the George Floyd protest, Lyman crashed an Auburn SWAT vehicle into Manning's stopped work truck in Federal Way and then continued driving, according to the records. Shortly thereafter, Auburn Police Department Commander Steve Stalker began an internal investigation into Lyman's actions. Not stalker like a stalker, but somebody who stocks shelves. He stocks records, I guess. Manning filed a lawsuit for damages against the city of Auburn in January of 2022. To Manning's surprise, the police vehicle didn't stop. It's like, oh my God, they kept going. No officers came to check on him and his nephew. The officer behind the wheel just kept driving, Manning said. He said he drove down the street to see if maybe the police had pulled over somewhere just out of sight, but they were gone. Hell yeah, they were gone. They weren't going to get caught after that. Less than a month after the crash, on June 6th, the Supervisory Review Board, consisting of Commanders Sam Betts, Dave Colglazer, and Christian Adams, reviewed Stalker's investigation. On June 17th, they sent Lyman a letter of their findings and a decision for discipline. A written reprimand. Bad baby, don't do that again. Or you won't be driving no SWAT vehicles. The investigation confirmed Lyman did hit Manning's truck and then he knowingly drove away. The letter states, we're going to read some of the letter here. The SWAT van collided with the box truck, which caused damage to the rear mirror. You later provided information stating that you were fully aware that you collided with the box truck and damaged the mirror, but made the conscious decision to continue driving to the call out without stopping to speak with the driver of the box truck. We're going in an emergency. Hey, we're code 3. We'll come back to you later. You shut up. We hit that truck, dude. You see that mirror fly? Washington state law requires drivers who collide with other cars to stop driving and exchange their name, address, insurance information, and driver's license number with each other. People who do not stop to exchange information after a crash are guilty of a gross misdemeanor according to state law. And I guess now, unless you're a SWAT cop. Because if you're a SWAT cop, you just get a written reprimand. Now, however, if the crash results in an injury and the driver fails to stop, they are guilty of a Class C felony. Class C felonies are punishable up to 5 years in prison and fines up to $10,000, according to Washington State. Now, the internal investigation letter does not acknowledge that Manning was injured by the crash and had to seek medical treatment due to his injuries. They're saying it doesn't acknowledge that. So he did have to seek medical treatment, right? Is that what they're saying? But they didn't acknowledge that in the letter. The letter to Lyman ends with a justification of discipline. The justification states that when Lyman crashed a SWAT vehicle into Manning's truck, he was responding to a call of a barricaded subject with no hostages, and there were already officers on scene. But he was code 3, man. Come on now. All the Blue Line supporters are going to say he was he was going to a barricaded subject. He had to get his officer's safety was in question. Those officers, man, they could have really been hurt without the SWAT team there. The letter goes on, life safety priorities would indicate that your response to the incident was not crucial at the moment when you decided to leave the scene of the collision. The needs of the community outweighed the needs of law enforcement at that moment, and you chose to leave the scene of the collision. Now, the letter ends by stating this was not an issue of lack of training, but rather poor decision making, and Lyman's punishment is a written reprimand. It's not lack of training. You're a friggin' idiot. So we're going to give you a letter of reprimand. What? Maybe you should have shot him, Lyman. They would have just given you 2 weeks with pay off until they investigate. You would have got a paid vacation. This is not the first time an internal investigation found Lyman had engaged in actual misconduct, according to police records. March 23rd of 2018, A board determined Lyman engaged in actual misconduct by violating the department's use of force policies during a traffic stop in February of that year, according to police records. So this guy, 2 years before he hit this truck, he was engaged in misconduct. This is the second time, and he gets a written reprimand. I want to go work for that police department. You did what? We're going to write you up. Now, it talks about that incident in 2018 in the story below. If you want to go read it, you can go read all about that. But the biggest thing here is, here's a cop that's out of control. At least two that he got caught on. Those aren't just the two incidents. Those are the two he got caught. Misconduct in 2018, hit and run in 2020, and he gets a written reprimand. Now, between 2020 and when this Manning is filing this lawsuit last month, how many misconducts and departmental violations has Lyman done since then in the last 2 years? They had the riots, remember the national riots in May 31st of that year, 2020. Did he hurt anybody in any of the protesters?